welcome back to the deep dive. You ready for this? We are absolutely drowning in incredible video games that are coming out in 2025.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, seriously, everywhere you look, it's classic franchises making a comeback, brand new IPs, bursting onto the scene. It's like, when you go to one of those all-you-can-eat buffets
Yeah.
and your eyes are bigger than your stomach?
Yeah, I get it.
It's that feeling, except replace the food with amazing games.
You're not wrong. And what really gets me is the sheer variety on offer. You've got these huge AAA sequels that everyone's been waiting for, and then right alongside those, there's this wave of totally fresh, innovative titles. They're pushing the boundaries of, everything, the storytelling, the gameplay. It's wild.
Yeah, and it's like the whole industry's found its groove or something.
It really does feel that way.
So speaking of those huge sequels that have everyone going crazy,
Uh-oh, what now?
Rockstar Games, you know them, right?
Of course.
They finally, officially confirmed Grand Theft Auto VI.
Took them long enough?
I know, right? The internet basically exploded. But, I mean, you've been following this series forever.
Pretty much.
What's your take on all the stuff they've shown so far?
Honestly, just the fact that people have stayed this hyped up for years, even with almost zero info from Rockstar, it tells you everything you need to know about the impact of Grand Theft Auto. It's a cultural phenomenon.
For sure.
And the trailer itself, man, it's a masterclass in how to tease a game, Vice City, a female protagonist, maybe even the first for the series, who knows? And then all these hints about, heists and betrayals and shady deals. There's so much to dig into there, especially knowing how Rockstar loves to play with their stories.
Rockstar is definitely entering a whole new era with this one. That much is obvious. And choosing a female protagonist, especially in a franchise that's, let's face it, known for its kind of over-the-top male characters, it feels huge.
You think so?
Totally. I'm dying to see how it changes the whole vibe of the game, the story, everything.
Oh, it'll change things for sure. And don't forget about Vice City itself. That 80s Miami vibe, it's just so iconic, so visually distinct. It's like a giant playground for Rockstar to explore all these themes of excess, and ambition and that whole criminal underworld thing they do so well.
You're making me think maybe they're trying to make some kind of statement with this game, not just make a great game.
Could be.
Okay, but before we lose ourselves in the neon lights and palm trees of Vice City, we got to talk about another comeback that I am ridiculously hyped for. Ninja Gaiden 4.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that one.
And get this. It's being developed by both Team Ninja and Platinum Games.
Wait, seriously?
I know, right? Talk about a dream team.
Something.
You're a fan of both. What do you think about this pairing? Platinum Games, they're known for that super stylish action, almost like a ballet. And then you have Team Ninja with their, let's call it their challenging difficulty.
Right, the Get Good school of game design.
Exactly. So how do you see those two very different styles working together? Or maybe even, clashing?
Man, it's hard not to picture some insane action sequences. Imagine those signature Platinum Games flourishes. The crazy combos, the slow-motion finishers, all mixed up with that brutal, unforgiving combat that Ninja Gaiden's famous for.
It's going to be intense.
Kidding. It could be one of the most challenging, but also visually stunning action games ever made.
Right. And then on top of that, they've got this new playable character from the Raven clan, Yakumo. And there's something about a gruesome transformation that's happened to Tokyo. So we're not just retreading old ground here. There's a whole new story to tell, expanding the lore, bringing in new perspectives.
It's definitely got potential.
And hey, fun fact, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black got a surprise re-release during the Xbox Developer Direct. A little bonus for fans while they wait for the new one, right?
Oh, bad.
Okay, before we jump to the next big thing, got to remind everyone, if you're digging this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more. You know the drill. It really helps us out and lets us know what you guys want to see more of.
Keep them coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, another iconic franchise is making a comeback, and we can't forget about this one, Metal Gear Solid 3. It's getting a full remake called Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. So what are your initial thoughts on revisiting this classic with all the fancy new tech we have now?
Well, the original Metal Gear Solid 3, that was a game changer, plain and simple. It left a huge mark on the whole stealth genre, and the story was, shockingly complex and emotional for the time. This remake, it's a chance to not just replay a classic, but to experience it in a whole new light, The big question is, how are they going to modernize it without losing that original charm?
Yeah. That's the tricky part.
Totally. The original had this rawness, this sense of experimentation that I really hope they keep.
Me too.
Yeah.
Speaking of experimentation, let's switch gears to a genre that's all about dropping players into incredible worlds and letting them forge their own paths, RPGs.
My favorite.
And 2025 is looking like an absolute feast for RPG fans.
Oh, yeah. Spill the beans. What's got you excited? Well, we've been talking about going back to these familiar places, but there are also a bunch of RPGs coming out that are taking us to totally new worlds, like Kingdom Come, Deliverance 2. That one's really caught my eye. You know, you mentioned in your notes that you're a sucker for historically accurate games.
Did I? I guess the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, what is it about this one that stands out to you?
Honestly,
Mm.
it's just so refreshing to see a game that's this committed to getting the history right, especially in a genre that's usually all about, elves and dragons and magic.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of historical realism in RPGs.
Exactly. But Kingdom Come, Deliverance 2, it takes us back to 15th century Bohemia, and the devs, man, they've gone all out in recreating that period. They've obsessed over every detail. We're talking knights, castles, political intrigue, the whole 9 yards. But with this level of realism, you just don't see in games very often. What do you think? How's that commitment to realism going to affect the gameplay?
It's a tough balancing act for the developers, that's for sure. They got to make it historically accurate, but also fun to play. Not always easy.
Right.
But from what we've seen, it looks like they're finding a good balance. The first Kingdom Come, Deliverance, people loved it for its world and the way your choices actually mattered. It seems like they're building on that for the sequel. It's not just about slaying dragons or whatever. It's about navigating this complex historical world, making choices that have real consequences, a different kind of RPG, you know?
Absolutely. And speaking of different RPG experiences, we got to talk about the masters of choice-driven narratives, Obsidian Entertainment.
Yeah.
They're dropping not one, but TWO, big RPGs in 2025. Avowed, a first-person fantasy RPG, and The Outer Worlds 2, the sci-fi sequel everyone's been waiting for. What do you think it is about Obsidian? How do they make these worlds feel so real, so responsive to the player's choices?
It's their secret sauce, man. They have this knack for creating worlds that actually feel like they react to what you do. Your choices, they don't just change the story, they change the whole world. And they're not afraid to tackle big, complicated themes, to put you in situations where there's no easy answer, where you have to really think about what you're doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of moral grayness in their games.
Totally. So whether you're exploring a magical world in Avowed or, fighting corporate overlords in space in The Outer Worlds 2, you're constantly faced with choices that matter. It's a style of RPG that really connects with players who want more than just a power trip.
It's like they're giving you the tools to write your own story inside these incredible worlds they've built. Okay, let's switch gears for a minute. Ready to unleash some mayhem.
Bring it on.
2025 is going to be a huge year for action games.
Slaying
Slaying demons in medieval times, hunting giant monsters in a crazy open world, you name it.
Sounds good to me.
And speaking of heart-pounding action, there's this game called Doom, The Dark Ages. I got to tell you about it. It's a prequel, see? And it takes the Doomslayer, drops him right into a medieval setting. But here's the kicker. He's armed with brutal melee weapons, AND, demonic powers.
Wait, what?
I know, it sounds crazy, but somehow it just works. What do you think? This whole medieval twist on the Doom formula, is it going to work?
It's brilliant, actually. It's like they took this franchise we all know and love, flipped it on its head, but they still kept that core essence. Doom's all about power, speed, just this relentless aggression.
Right.
And somehow that fits perfectly in a medieval setting. I mean, picture this. You're fighting demons, right? With a flaming flail inside a Gothic castle. It's going to be epic.
I can already see it. The Doomslayer in full medieval armor just tearing through these hordes of demonic knights. And they've really focused on the melee combat this time around.
Yeah.
You're going to be up close and personal with those demons. It's a nice change of pace from all the guns in the recent Doom games.
I like it.
Speaking of changes of pace, Monster Hunter Wilds. They're taking that franchise in a bold new direction, too. It's Monster Hunter, but in a huge, seamless open world. No more loading screens, just pure monster hunting all the time.
Wow, that's a big change.
I know, right? What do you think about that?
Well, the Monster Hunter games, They've always been great at creating these intricate ecosystems where every creature has its place. Wilds is taking that to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Now we're talking dynamic weather, herds of monsters moving across the map. The environments are going to be insanely detailed. It's a game changer.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's not just about how it looks, though.
Right.
All those environmental things, they actually affect how you play the game.
Yeah.
You got to adapt to the weather, use the terrain to your advantage,
Yeah.
even think about how your actions are going to mess with the balance of the whole ecosystem. That's a level of depth and immersion you just don't see very often in action games.
It's going to appeal to both the hardcore fans and the newbies. And speaking of appealing, hey listener, you still with us? If you're digging this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. It really helps us out and keeps these deep dives coming.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, so we've talked about these giant AAA games that are grabbing all the headlines. But 2025 is also going to be a fantastic year for indie games. You know, those smaller studios that are often the ones pushing the boundaries, trying new things. There are a couple that I've got my eye on. Have you seen any that look interesting?
Oh yeah. Indie games are where you find the real creative risks. The stories that are super personal and unique. 2025 is no different. There's so much talent and passion out there. It's inspiring to see these smaller teams making their mark on the industry. What have you seen that you like?
Well, there's this game called South of Midnight. It's a magical realism adventure set in the American South. And the visuals, man, they're breathtaking. They've gone all in on the Southern Gothic aesthetic, which we don't see a lot of in games.
Oh, interesting.
What do you think about that combination? Southern Gothic with magical realism, especially for an interactive story?
It's a cool mix, that's for sure. You know, Southern Gothic, it's all about decay and isolation and this like weight of history, but it's also got this haunting beauty to it. So when you add in magical realism, you know, where you're taking the real world and injecting it with these fantastical elements, it could be something really special.
Yeah.
I'm picturing a world where like the ordinary and the supernatural are just completely intertwined. Every rundown mansion's hiding a secret. Every old oak tree's whispering with forgotten stories.
It's like a Southern Gothic fairy tale, but you're living it. And speaking of stories, another indie game that's caught my attention is Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. This one's an RPG, but get this, the art style is inspired by Impressionist paintings.
Whoa, that's different.
I know, right? What do you think about that? How's it going to work in an RPG?
It's bold, that's for sure. And it shows you how ambitious these indie devs are getting. Impressionism, it's all about capturing those fleeting moments, you know? The light, the color, it could make for a really dynamic world, a world that feels alive.
Yeah.
Imagine exploring these environments that are constantly shifting and changing with the light. Every brushstroke feels full of mystery and wonder.
Like you're stepping into a painting that's come to life. And they're doing some cool things with the combat system, too, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
It's a mix of turn-based strategy and real-time action.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're trying to capture that, you know, that flow and movement of the Impressionist style in the way the game plays.
That's really cool. And it just goes to show you what the indie scene's all about, that creative spirit. These devs, they're not held back by the same stuff as the big studios. They can take risks, experiment, push the boundaries of what games can be.
Exactly. And those are just a couple of the awesome indie games coming out in 2025. It's amazing to see so much creativity and passion from devs of all sizes, big and small. Everyone's contributing to this incredible world of gaming. But before we wander too far into the indie scene, there are a couple of big hitters we can't ignore. Ready to catch up with some old friends?
Sure. Who did you have in mind?
Well, first up, we've got the return of everyone's favorite puzzle-solving professor, Professor Layton and the New World of Steam.
Oh, nice.
It's been like 12 years since we last saw the professor and his trusty sidekick, Luke. But they're back with a brand new adventure, this time on the Nintendo Switch. What do you think about this long-awaited comeback? The Professor Layton games, they've always had this special charm, right?
They really do. It's like they're this perfect blend of brain-bending puzzles, charming stories, and those whimsical visuals. There's a warmth and humor to them that just appeals to everyone, no matter how old you are.
It's true.
It's like curling up with a good book, but you also get to challenge yourself with these clever puzzles.
Yeah.
And this new one, with the whole steampunk setting and a fresh batch of mysteries to solve, it's got me feeling like a kid again, you know? Ready to jump into a new adventure with the professor.
Me too, me too. There's something so comforting about going back to those familiar characters and that world of quirky puzzles and heartwarming stories. It's like catching up with old friends. Speaking of familiar faces, there's another long-awaited sequel that's finally getting back on track after a bit of a bumpy road.
Vampire. The Masquerade Bloodlines, too.
And this game's been through it all.
Mm.
Delays, a developer switch, even rumors that it was canceled. But it looks like it's finally happening, and the fans are ready to sink their teeth into this vampire-infested world.
Oh yeah, it's been a wild ride for that game. The fact that it's still alive just shows you how passionate the fans are and how much that original Bloodlines game meant to people. And from what they've shown, Bloodlines 2 is shaping up to be a worthy successor. Compelling story, rich world steeped in all that vampire lore, and a deep, choice-driven narrative that's going to put you right in the middle of the vampire underworld.
Sounds intense.
I'm cautiously optimistic, I'd say. I really want to see how they pull off bringing this beloved franchise back to life.
Yeah, it's definitely one to watch. I'm sure a lot of gamers out there are eager to dive back into that world of darkness. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our whirlwind tour of gaming in 2025. It's been a crazy ride exploring all these different games that show just how much creativity and innovation there is in this industry.
It's a great time to be a gamer, that's for sure. We've got these huge blockbuster experiences pushing the limits of graphics and storytelling, and then we've got these smaller studios taking creative risks, giving us something totally unique and unforgettable.
It's a great reminder that gaming's more than just entertainment. It's a powerful way to tell stories, to explore new worlds, to connect with people. It's a world that welcomes everyone, whether you're a hardcore veteran or just starting out. Before we wrap things up, though, hit us up in the comments and let us know which games you're most hyped for. And while you're at it, smack that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the world of gaming.
It's been awesome sharing this journey with you, our amazing listener. We can't wait to see what the future holds for gaming.
Until next time, happy gaming.